The signal in the desert. The sun was hot, and the ground was dry. Jake walked slowly across the endless desert of the alien planet. The sand was red and sharp, and the air smelled like metal. His boots made soft crunching sounds as he moved forward. His oxygen level was fine, but the heat made him sweat under his helmet. Jake was not a soldier. He was a mechanic from Earth, sent to check a broken satellite. It was supposed to be a 2-day job. Fix it, report back, go home. But something strange had happened. The satellite was dead, and now he was getting a signal, one that was not from any Earth device. His small radio crackled again. Help. Water. Anyone. Please. A weak, broken voice, barely understandable. It was a girl's voice, not human, not fully. Jake stopped and looked around. Nothing but sand and rocks in every direction. No buildings, no ships, no sign of life. He adjusted his radio. "This is Jake. Who is this? Can you hear me?" Silence. Then again. "Water. Please. Help." He looked at the signal tracker on his wrist. The source was moving. Slowly, but definitely coming from the east, near the sharp rock hills. Jake sighed. This wasn't part of his mission. He could leave, but the voice, so tired, so desperate, it felt wrong to ignore it. "All right," he said to himself. "Let's go find a ghost." He walked for almost an hour. The sun never moved in the sky. This planet had a strange orbit. Sometimes day lasted, for days. And the desert never ended. Soon he noticed something, a torn piece of silver cloth stuck on a rock. Alien material, soft, smooth, and glowing faintly, not from Earth. Nearby, strange footprints in the sand, small light, not human-shaped. His heart beat faster. He followed the trail carefully. Suddenly, his radio hissed again, louder now. "Someone there? I can't. Please. Water." Then silence. Jake crouched behind a rock, scanning the area. Nothing moved. The wind blew softly. Then, movement. Just for a second. Something small ran behind a big stone about 20 meters ahead. Jake held his breath. "I'm not here to hurt you," he called out. "I have water." No reply. He opened his bag, pulled out a small water pack, and placed it on the sand in front of him. He stepped back. "If you can hear me, take it." Still nothing. He waited. 5 minutes passed. Then slowly, from behind the rock, a thin figure crawled out. It was a girl, alien but almost human. Her skin was pale blue, dry and cracked. Her eyes were big and glowing faintly. She looked weak. She reached for the water with shaking hands and drank it fast, like she hadn't had any in days. Jake stayed still, watching. She looked at him. Her voice was a whisper. "Thank you." "What's your name?" Jake asked gently. "Lyra," she said, coughing. "My ship crashed many days ago." "Are you alone?" She looked down. "Yes, they're gone." "Who?" "My crew. They're all gone. Something took them." Jake felt a chill. What took them? Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes filled with fear. She looked around like something might come out of the sand at any moment. "We were explorers," she said quietly. "But we found something we should not have touched." "What was it?" She shook her head. "It's still out there. Watching." Jake looked over the empty desert. No sign of anything. But now it didn't feel empty anymore. He offered her his hand. "Come with me. I have food, shelter." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. She stood slowly, her legs weak. Jake supported her as they walked back the way he came. Behind them, in the far distance, the sand shifted, just a little. The alien girl, the desert, was quiet again, but Jake's mind was full of noise. Questions, fear, curiosity. The strange alien girl walked slowly beside him, her steps unsteady, like she was learning to walk again. Jake kept glancing at her. Lyra, she had said her name was. She didn't look dangerous, just broken. As they reached his small camp near the rocks, Jake helped her sit down. He gave her more water, a protein bar, and wrapped a thin blanket around her. The sun above them didn't move. It just hung there like a silent eye, always watching. "You said something took your crew," Jake said. "What was it?" Lyra looked at him, her blue eyes dull but alert. "I don't know what it is, but it's not human. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't speak. It only waits. And then it takes." Her voice was soft, like a whisper floating in the wind. Jake sat across from her, his hand near his tool bag, just in case. "How many were you?" "9 of us. From the HFY science fleet. We were studying old energy signals beneath the surface. Old tech. Older than my people." "And your ship?" "Crashed when the power failed. We didn't understand the planet. It's not dead, it's watching." Jake frowned. This planet had no life signs. No movement, no heat patterns. His scanners picked up nothing. "You mean there are creatures underground?" "Not creatures," she said. "Something else. It lives in the sand. It feels your footsteps. It hears your fear." A long silence followed. Jake stared at the horizon. This was turning into something far beyond a simple rescue. "Why didn't you call for help before?" he asked. Lyra's lips trembled. "I did. Every day. But the signal kept dying, like something was jamming it. I thought no one would ever come." Jake leaned back, trying to think. Was she hallucinating? Dehydration could cause confusion, or maybe she was telling the truth. As night approached, not darkness, but a colder kind of light, Lyra suddenly sat up. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Jake froze. He heard it too. A low, slow rumble beneath the sand. Very faint, like a heartbeat deep underground. "Get down," she hissed. They both ducked behind a rock. Jake switched off his gear lights and listened. The sand near the edge of the camp was shifting. Something was moving under it. Then it stopped. They waited. 5 minutes. 10, nothing. Lyra looked terrified. "It's testing us," she said. "It knows I'm not dead." "What is it? What does it want?" "It feeds on energy. Not just power cells, life energy, emotion, fear. It took my captain when he screamed during the night. It took another when she tried to run." Jake swallowed hard. "Why did it leave you?" She looked away. "Because I stayed still. I played dead for 3 days. No food, no water, no sound." Jake stared at her. The pain, the fear, the silence. He could see it all in her face. "I thought I was going to die out there," she said. "But then I heard your signal. It was weak, but it gave me hope." Jake stood up and started checking his equipment. "We can't stay here. If it's attracted to movement, sound, or energy, we need to move carefully." Lyra looked at him. "You still want to help me? Even after what I told you?" "You needed help," Jake said. "And I'm not leaving you out here." She gave a small, broken smile. They began to pack. Jake stored his tools, wrapped the food, and carefully shut down his equipment to avoid noise. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet vibrated again, stronger this time. A small sinkhole opened a few meters away. Dark. Deep. Then, from the hole, came a sound. Not a roar. Not a growl. A whisper. A voice that wasn't a voice. Hundreds of tiny sounds speaking together. It said nothing clear, but it made Jake's spine go cold. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We have to go. Now." They ran. Not fast. Carefully, stepping only on stone, avoiding the soft sand. Behind them, the sinkhole widened. Something long and black stretched out of it, almost like a shadow moving without light. They climbed a hill of rocks, and from the top, Jake looked back. Nothing there. No hole. No shadow. No sound, like it had never happened. But Lyra was shaking. She knew better. It knows you now too, she said. Jake looked at her. Then we find your crash site. We find out what your crew discovered. And we figure out what this thing is. Lyra nodded. But if we go there, we might not come back. Then let's make sure we make it count. And with that, they disappeared into the dry, endless land, heading toward answers buried in sand and silence. Something in the sand. The wind had stopped. Jake and Lyra stood at the edge of a long, narrow canyon that split through the red desert like a scar. Down below, shadows stretched over ancient rock. The planet was silent again. Too silent. They had walked for hours, no signs of life. No plants, no water, no animals. Even the air felt heavy now, like it was watching them. Lyra's breathing was slow but uneven. She was still weak. Jake gave her another small sip of water, carefully measuring the supply. We can't waste any more, he said quietly. Lyra nodded. Her eyes scanned the sand behind them. Always checking. Always afraid. The crash site, she whispered. Not far now, just past that ridge. Jake helped her climb. His boots slipped on the dry stones, but he pushed forward. The sun above them still hadn't moved. The light was stuck, like time itself had paused on this cursed planet. They reached the top and froze. Down below, half buried in the sand, was the wreck of a ship, sleek and broken, its silver surface cracked open like an egg. Black scorch marks ran across the hull. One wing was torn off, lying far from the rest. Lyra's ship. Vayari, scout vessel A-73, she said softly. I was born on that ship. Jake felt something tight in his chest. The place looked dead. But it didn't feel dead. They climbed down. The closer they got, the colder the air became. No wind. No sound. Just silence and dust. As they stepped into the shadow of the ship, Jake noticed strange marks on the metal. Long scratches like claws. Not from fire. Not from weapons. Something had ripped it open. They entered through a broken hatch. The inside was dark. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines. Blood on the floor. Long dried. Stay close, Jake whispered. They moved slowly, room by room. The control panels were shattered. The power core was missing. Jake tried to activate a log screen, but only static showed. Lyra guided him to the data room. Most of the systems were burned out, but one black box still glowed faintly. The last memory logs, she said. Maybe they'll explain what happened. Jake opened the casing. Inside were 4 small memory disks. He pocketed them. They'd need a reader later. As they turned to leave, something shifted above them. A soft sound, like sand pouring through metal. Jake looked up. The ceiling was cracked. Tiny grains of sand were falling through it. Not much. Just a little. But enough. He grabbed Lyra's hand. We need to go. Now. They ran out of the ship and climbed up the ridge again. Halfway up, Lyra stumbled. Jake caught her and pulled her up just in time to see it. The sand near the ship was moving. Not blowing. Crawling. A circle of sand, about 5 meters wide, slowly twisting like a whirlpool. But there was no wind. Nothing was pushing it. Then, in the center of the whirlpool, something began to rise. Long black limbs, thin like branches but sharp like blades. No eyes. No mouth. Just a body made of shadow and sand. Jake stared, frozen. The thing didn't make a sound. But in his mind, he heard it. Not words, not thoughts, feelings, fear, hunger, anger. He turned to Lyra. Her eyes were wide with horror. It followed us, she said. It never stopped. They climbed higher, the creature behind them, moving without steps. It just floated forward, dragging sand with it. Jake threw a flash grenade from his pack. It exploded with a loud bang and a burst of light. The creature stopped. It twisted in the air, recoiling like it was in pain. Jake grabbed Lyra and ran. They reached a rocky ledge and hid behind it. Jake peeked over. The sand had settled again. The creature was gone. Lyra was shaking. It doesn't like bright light. That's why it hides during the day. But there's always light here. Yes, she said, but not true light, not sunlight. The light here is artificial. The planet reflects it from the twin stars. It's fake. The thing lives in that false light. Jake pulled out a solar flare stick and placed it next to them, a real burst of solar energy, just in case. They waited. 1 hour. 2. Nothing returned. Finally, Jake stood up. We can't fight it, not yet. We need more information. He held up the memory disks. These will tell us what your crew found, what woke that thing. Lyra nodded. There's a science outpost, she said. 2 days from here, underground. We hit a data reader there. Maybe it's still working. Jake looked out at the endless desert. Then, that's where we go. He looked at Lyra, her face tired, but full of fire. But next time, he said, gripping the flare, we fight smarter. And together they walked toward the edge of the desert, where shadows whispered and secrets waited under the sand. Buried secrets, the desert changed as they walked deeper into the wasteland. The sand became darker, sharper. The wind was colder. Now, no more soft dunes, only broken stones and jagged cliffs. Jake could feel it. This place was older, dangerous. Every step echoed like a warning. Lyra walked beside him, her skin pale, her strength fading, but her eyes were sharp, like she remembered something the desert was trying to make her forget. We're close, she whispered. How close? Jake asked. You'll know when the silence changes. Jake didn't understand, but he didn't ask again. They had left the wreck of her ship behind hours ago. Jake had memorized the path. He wanted to come back, if they survived. Now, ahead of them stood a stone wall. Ancient, covered in markings not even Lyra could read. This wasn't made by my people, she said quietly. We built our outpost over it long ago. We thought it was safe. Just ruins. She touched a circular mark in the stone. The wall hummed. Jake stepped back as the ground vibrated. Slowly, the stone split open, revealing a narrow stairway leading down into darkness. Cold air rushed up, smelling like rust and something rotten. After you, he said. They descended, one step at a time. The deeper they went, the darker it became. Jake's helmet light flickered, though his battery was full. It doesn't like light, Lyra said again. They reached the bottom. The room opened wide. Metal walls, broken panels. Half the lights were dead. Wires sparked on the ceiling. It looked like there had been a fire, or a fight. This was the Vayari outpost, or what was left of it. Jake scanned the area. They passed shattered desks, glass tubes filled with old dust and strange carvings on every surface, like someone had scratched symbols into the walls, over and over again. What happened here? Lyra looked around slowly. This is where we heard the first signal. It came from below, under the stone. We thought it was just old tech, forgotten AI maybe. But when we dug deeper, she stopped. What? Something answered us. Jake frowned. What do you mean, answered? She walked over to a console in the corner. It was burnt, but a second device, a smaller black box, was still intact. This is the reader, she said. It might still work. Jake inserted the memory disk he had taken from her ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen lit up. Dim, but clear. Log 47. Dr. Senvaran, energy readings below. The outpost continued to rise. No signs of life, but something down there is reacting. Log 52. Dr. Varan, we've made contact. Not with words, with emotion, dreams, whispers. My crew can feel it. It's waking up. Log 60. Commander Tay, shut down the dig. Too many. Gone missing. Varan refuses. He says the creature is lonely. He's lost his mind. Log 65. Emergency log. Power failure. Doors sealed. It's inside. It's not just one, it's many. Or one wearing many faces. I don't know. We can't stop it. The screen went black. Silence. Jake stared at the screen. His skin was cold. They called it, he said. They woke it up. Yes, Lyra whispered. And now it won't sleep again. A loud bang echoed through the corridor behind them. They turned. Nothing there. Just shadows. Jake turned on his scanner. Motion. Slow. Behind the wall. Then it stopped. Another bang. Closer. We have to go, Lyra said, her voice shaking. Now. They ran down a side hallway deeper into the outpost. Jake didn't know where they were going, but Lyra did. There's a lift, she said. It goes to the lowest level. The dig site. We might find the source. Why go deeper? Because the only way to kill this thing is to understand it. The lift was still working, barely. They stepped inside. The door closed. As they descended, the light inside flickered again. Jake looked at Lyra. Her hands were trembling. What? If it's waiting for us, he asked. Then we ask it, why? When the door opened, the air was heavy. Thick like smoke, but there was no fire. The room was massive, high ceiling, black stone everywhere, and in the center, a pillar, a tall, smooth tower of dark crystal, pulsing with slow red light. Jake stepped forward. Something inside the crystal moved, a shape. Humanoid, but not human. It opened its eyes and Jake heard its voice. Not with ears, but inside his mind. You are not Veyari. You carry the scent of water, of earth. Human. Jake couldn't speak. It kept going. You feel fear, confusion, but you do not run. You ask questions. Why? He looked at Lyra. She was frozen in place, eyes wide. Jake answered in his mind. Because I want to know what you are. The crystal pulsed. Then I will show you. The walls around them shifted. Images filled the room. Old memories, not their own. Giant cities made of stone and light. Alien beings walking in peace, then war, destruction, silence. The creature was alone, and for thousands of years, they feared me, locked me away. I slept until your kind woke me. Lyra stepped forward. We didn't mean to hurt you, she said, but you did. You dug where you should not. You bled into my prison. Jake gripped his tool. What do you want from us? The creature was silent for a long moment. Then it answered, to be left alone, or to be understood. The choice is yours. Into the depths, Jake's heart pounded. The creature's voice echoed in his mind long after it stopped speaking. The images, the pain, the endless loneliness. It was still there, pulsing in the room like a second heartbeat. The black crystal stood tall in the center, alive with memory. Ancient, intelligent, to be left alone, or to be understood. It had given them a choice. But Jake wasn't sure either option meant safety. He turned to Lyra. She stood frozen, eyes locked on the crystal. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Lyra. Jake stepped closer. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. He shook her shoulder. Finally, she gasped like she'd been underwater for too long. It showed me something, she whispered. But it wasn't a memory. It was mine. Yours? My past. My fears. My mistakes. She stepped back, confused. How does it know me? Before Jake could answer, the room began to tremble. The ground beneath them cracked, thin lines of light spilling upward like veins. The crystal pulsed harder, red light, faster, angrier. It was waking more. From the walls, black liquid began to drip, not oil, not water. It crawled, climbed. It formed shapes, arms, legs, eyes. Jake pulled Lyra back. We need to leave, now. They turned toward the lift, but it was gone. Just gone. The wall where it once stood was now smooth stone. This isn't real, Jake whispered. It's playing with our minds. But the fear, the cold, the shaking in his hands, That was real. The shadows on the walls moved closer. They didn't run. They circled, guardians, projections, or something worse. Lyra's voice trembled. This isn't part of the prison. This is the prison. The crystal spoke again, soft but everywhere. You woke me. But you are not the first. Images flashed. Other beings. Long before the Vayari. Explorers, soldiers, scientists. All dead. All broken. They wanted power. You want truth. Will you survive it? Jake felt pressure in his skull, like 1,000 thoughts trying to force their way into his brain. He shouted back, Why us? Why now? The shadows stopped moving. Because your kind is louder. Bolder. You touch without thinking. And yet, you listen. Suddenly the floor beneath them split open. They fell, not fast, not hard. They floated. Down, down, into a chamber so deep it felt like falling into the eye, bones of the planet. When they landed, Jake looked around. They stood in a long corridor, glowing with soft white light. Walls made of polished stone, peaceful, quiet. Too quiet. This isn't like the rest of the place, Jake said. Lyra nodded, slowly. This was built after the prison. By who? She didn't answer. They walked forward, every step echoing. Soon, they reached a circular room with no door, only a single console glowing blue in the center. As they stepped inside, the door, behind them, vanished again, trapped. Jake walked to the console. Words appeared, this time in English. Identity confirmed. Human presence registered, unlocking archive memory. Project Mercy. He frowned. Project Mercy? The room went dark, then images, not of aliens, of Earth, cities burning, oceans rising, people crying, a massive war, a world in chaos. This hasn't happened, Jake said. Lyra looked at him with a strange expression. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? The image changed again. Scientists from Earth working with Vayari, plans for deep space travel, a secret mission to find ancient weapons. They didn't come here by accident, Lyra said, her voice cold. My crew. They were working with humans. Jake turned slowly. You knew? Lyra didn't look at him. Not at first. But the memories the creature showed me, they came from my captain, from the data logs I wasn't allowed to see. What were they looking for? Not peace, not science. They wanted to use the creature, control it, send it to other planets. Jake's stomach turned. Including Earth? Lyra finally looked at him. Yes. Then she whispered something that made his blood go cold. They were going to test it on you. Suddenly the lights exploded. A high-pitched sound filled the room. Jake covered his ears, but the sound was inside his head. The creature was angry now. I gave them a choice. They chose control. You must choose better. The room started to shake. A bright light appeared in the floor, not a door, not a portal, something else. Jake felt pulled toward it, like gravity. Lyra reached for his hand. If we go in there, I don't know what will happen. He stared at the light, then at her. But if we don't, he said, it'll never stop. The choice. The light pulled at them like a silent tide. Jake stood at the edge of it, heart pounding. He felt like he was standing before something, older than time. Something watching him. Not with eyes, but with memory. Lyra held his hand tight. Her skin was cold. Not from fear, but from truth. What is this place? Jake whispered. The core, she said. Where the creature's mind lives. Not its body, its soul. If it lets you inside, it means you matter. Matter to who? To the choice. Jake looked down into the light. He saw nothing. No floor. No fire. Just white. Endless white. And a strange calm that made his fear feel small. Then a voice. Not from the creature, but from someone else. A voice that sounded human. Jake Rowan, Earthborn Engineering Unit 17, you carry fire, you carry mercy, step forward. Jake froze. How does it know my name? Lyra didn't answer. She looked away. What's going on? He asked. She didn't move. Lyra. Silence. Then, guilt in her eyes. I didn't crash here by accident, she said. Jake felt the air leave his lungs. What are you saying? They sent me, she whispered. To find the prison, to unlock it. They knew a human would respond to the signal, and they knew you'd come. He stepped back. You used me. No. She stepped forward. I didn't know it would feel real. I didn't know you would feel real. The walls around them began to melt into light. Jake's thoughts raced. Was any of it true? The hunger. The fear. The creature. Or was he the test? The voice returned. This being beside you is not your enemy. She is your mirror. You were both chosen because you both betrayed something. Jake shook his head. I didn't betray anything. You left someone behind. Earth remembers. His chest tightened. Flash hit his mind. His brother Liam back on Earth. Sick. Dying. Jake had left for this mission anyway. That wasn't betrayal, he said. It was survival. Survival and betrayal often wear the same face. The floor beneath them shifted. A platform rose from the white. On it, 2 items. A silver key, glowing, and a black sphere, pulsing like a heartbeat. Lyra whispered, the key is release. We set the creature free. And the sphere? We trap it again. Deeper. Forever. But it'll kill to get out, Jake said. It already has. Lyra looked away. So have humans. The voice spoke again. One choice ends pain but spreads chaos. One choice ends danger but buries truth. Only one of you may choose. Jake turned to Lyra. She was crying now. You choose, she said. You earned it. He looked at both objects. His hand hovered over the key. Freedom. But for what? If the creature was set free, would it forgive? Or would it destroy everything in rage? Then his hand moved to the sphere. Imprisonment. But was it right to bury something that had already suffered for thousands of years? Jake closed his eyes, his mind filled with noise, memories of Earth, war, greed, hope, and Lyra's voice, begging for water in the desert. Not a trap, not a trick, a real cry. Finally, he opened his eyes and spoke. I won't choose death for anyone, not even for a monster. He picked up the key. The platform sank. The light around them exploded into color, gold, blue, red. A deep sound, like the heartbeat of a planet, echoed in the chamber. The crystal above cracked open. The creature stepped. Out, not made of shadow now, it looked peaceful, almost human. Its voice was no longer many. It was one. You have done what others feared. You gave me a voice. Jake nodded, shaking. What now? The creature pointed at Lyra. She may leave. And me. The creature stepped closer. You are not finished. You will walk with me. Learn with me. Become what your kind forgot. Jake looked at Lyra. Tears in her eyes. She stepped forward and hugged him hard. I'm sorry, she whispered. Me too, he said. Then she was gone, lifted by light, carried back to the surface, back to stars. Jake stood with the creature in the white room, alone, not afraid, just beginning. Hope and fire time no longer moved the way it used to. Jake wasn't sure how long he had been inside the core with the creature, an ancient force older than most stars, now walking beside him like a shadow with thought. The place they stood wasn't a room. It was a mind, a living memory shaped into space. He wasn't just learning from it, he was becoming part of it. They spoke without speaking. The creature showed him galaxies collapsing, civilizations rising and falling, species that burned too fast, and species that learned to wait. Jake, in return, showed it Earth, not just maps and facts, but people, memories, the laughter of children, the rage of war, the weight of choice, the feeling of water on your face after a long, hot day. Your kind is strange, the creature said, its voice now calm, almost kind. You carry fire in your hands and hope in your mouth, but your heart always forgets. Not always, Jake said. Some of us remember. The creature stood still for a moment. Then we will test that memory. A doorway appeared, circular, white, humming. Jake stepped through it. What he saw on the other side stopped his breath. Earth. Not a dream, not a memory, but real. He stood on a hill outside a city, New York, or what it had become. Tall buildings now ran on silent energy. Drones in the sky moved like birds. People walked with purpose but also with fear. His image was invisible to them. A ghost in the future. What year is this? Jake asked. Yours, 25 years ahead. He walked the streets, unseen, passed by digital billboards glowing with slogans. Remember the Sky War. Prepare for the unknown. Never trust what comes from the dark. They remember us, the creature said, not as survivors, but as threats. Jake saw soldiers in armor scanning the skies, ships being built, weapons tested in orbit. They're preparing for war. He whispered. Yes, because they believe another one is coming. They do not know you chose mercy. They were never told. Anger built in Jake's chest. You said we had a chance to prove we could change. Then, prove it, the creature said. A screen appeared before them. An interface. Ancient and new. A single option. Connect. What is it? A signal, the creature replied. Not a threat, not a weapon, a message. To every human mind on Earth. Not to control, but to remind. Remind them of what? What you saw here. What you chose. What it means to feel pain and still choose peace. Jake stared at the screen. And if they reject it? The creature stepped back. Then your kind will burn, itself. With or without me. Jake's hand hovered over the screen. This was his final moment. Not a battle, not a sacrifice, a choice. He pressed connect, instant silence, and then a wave of light. It passed through every human on the planet in seconds. Not data, not sound. Feeling. They saw what Jake had seen. The desert, the voice crying for water, the crash, the buried chamber, the ancient prison, the creature's loneliness, and the moment of mercy. A choice made in the dark, together. Across cities, children paused and stared into the sky. Old men cried without knowing why. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Scientists stopped their work and listened to the silence. Jake opened his eyes. The city had changed. The billboards now read, "Understand before you fear. Listen before you judge. We remember mercy." The future had shifted, not perfect, but possible. The creature turned to him one last time. You are not like the ones before. Neither are you. Will we meet again? I hope so. Jake blinked, and just like that, he was back, standing in the same desert, under the same sun, but something had changed. The air was lighter. The ground no longer trembled. He looked around, and in the far distance a ship appeared in the sky. It was hers. Lyra. She had returned. The ship landed. The door opened. She stepped out smiling. So? She asked. Did it work? Jake nodded slowly. We'll see. She laughed. Still human, I see. Always uncertain. Not uncertain, Jake said. Just honest. She held out her hand. Ready to go home? He took it. Together they rose into the sky, and far below, deep in the sand, something ancient finally slept. not in anger, but in peace.